Okay, roll call. Chairman Gary Hill.
Here.
Vice Chair Matt Schuler.
Here.
Alder Von Dorf. Here. Jim Blumreich.
Here.
Debbie Dean. Here. Kathy Hanklis is excused, and Bill Doerman is excused as well.
Motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Jim and Barb, all in favor, someone saying aye?
Aye.
So carried. Approval of minutes from November 12th.
So moved.
Second.
Who made the first motion?
Jim
Matt?
and Barb.
Matt, Barb. All those in favor, someone saying aye?
Aye.
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 The minutes are approved. Very good, thank you. Regular business, we haven't done a long agenda, which is good, Kev. That's good, and I know you kind of hinted at
Can we take a breath for the holidays?
Yes.
All right?
Yeah, we will. But anyway, we do have one thing on the regular agenda, and that's consideration of possible action to approve a request by DDL Holdings LLC to transfer real property in accordance with Development Agreement 17-02 Rail Yard North.
When we're in closed session for that?
If we need to, I don't think that we do.
Okay.
So in short, this goes back to the original rail yard development agreement with DDL for kind of being the master developer of everything north of Kellogg. And so we went through a few months ago, and part of the original development agreement involved the city providing a limited continuing guarantee for purchase of that property. That is something that the bank would not lend without that from the city, some assurances. So the city said, all right, well, if we're going to give that, then we want something as collateral, or to assure that, all right, money that's coming in is being used to pay down that guarantee and pay back the bank. So in short, we came up with this guarantee. We went through earlier this year and consented to 3 transfers of land. One that was for the warehouses, the second was for TWG and the Broadway Lofts project, and then the third was for the condo project. For the condo project especially, that would enable the developer to sell those condos, and every condo purchaser wouldn't have to come to RDA and city for approval to buy a condo. So those totaled about $1.2 million. And today, before you, is a request for another transfer for this chunk of land for Broadway and Kellogg. Map's tilted on its side so it can make it fit, but Broadway's there at the top, so north is right and down a little bit. So this is just about 3 acres. And this will go also to TWG. And this is for their second market rate project that we approved a few weeks ago. And this is to consent to that sale. We would like to get this done prior to the end of the year because they would like to close on this transaction or move forward with their opportunity zone investment. With that, this should reduce the limited liability by about $1.5 million, minus closing costs and some other things. With that, I'm conferring with the law department in terms of this 1.5 plus the 1.2 may eliminate the guarantee entirely. I think the guarantee is for $2.5 million plus $100,000 of legal fees. But if so, we feel really good about why this property is being sold and what's being developed on it, and would recommend that the RDA approve this matter.
Any comments from the council?
My understanding is that Vanessa is still reviewing it, and I think they're going to discuss that at development team on Wednesday.
Right, this will go to council, and it will be actually done by resolution. So she's just making sure that we've got all the T's crossed and I's dotted for that resolution.
So the transfer will take place before December 31st?
Yes.
Which means it goes on the rolls then?
It is on the rolls.
It is on
It is on the
rolls.
rolls,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, it's just the guarantee.
Thankfully, we don't own anything over there, but for our finance director, if we can eliminate a financial obligation by year end, that would
Correct.
bode well for our books come 2019, or come 2020, yes.
It's just something that's noted in our CAFR, that's guaranteed.
Yeah.
And this would essentially, we might not be down to 0 cents, but we're going to be really close.
Yeah, well, I think we'll go over, we have to calculate the actual amounts minus like the closing costs.
Okay.
I actually didn't even count the condos in it because there's a little money that goes in up front, but actually that money doesn't get repaid until they're sold as or the land cost, but from the warehouse building, TWG's Broadway lofts, and this one, that should be more than 2.5. So just have to check with the bank on the numbers.
And that's the only thing I wasn't exactly sure of when I read the resolution through, but I'm like, if that's what it is saying in principle, then.
Correct, so the resolution is just consenting to this release. We're actually not dissolving the guarantee yet. That might
Yep.
come through separately.
Yep.
But the resolution as written right now just releases this property.
Very successful.
This also,
Very successful.
Yeah.
this also does, what, by closing by the end of the year, maximizes that OZ investment for that
Correct.
investor.
Which is why they'd like to get the transaction done. I think we should do our part so that there's no snags when they're doing their due diligence and
Yep.
closing documents that, oh, you have to go back to the city. And
Great.
as much as I think Alderdorf would love to meet, right, New Year's Eve, to
Absolutely.
get this done.
Dedicated.
Whatever has to be done.
Great.
I'll move to approve the recommendation.
Second.
Motion made by Jim and second by Matt to approve the resolution. Questions or comments?
Yeah, I mean, we're elated. I mean, if you think about the timing of this,
Absolutely.
we signed the agreement in
Absolutely.
December, and a year later, I mean, we could be,
Absolutely.
there's really like that one prime development piece left in there, so that's been great.
Right.
Better than Walmart. I didn't see that. Okay, anyway, we shall vote. Sorry about that.
That was my first city council meeting I ever went to. In the audience, it's the moment. I want to know this.
Right.
Passed unanimously.
Excellent, thank you guys and gals. All right, informational. I personally had no question of the financial report or check register. Anybody else did? Bonding update, please.
So I used the same similar format that I showed last year. If you want to see something different, please let me know. You want to go to the next page?
Did you put some in?
Oh.
Did you put
Oh,
anything in there?
it's in the packet.
Oh,
It's at the very end.
oh.
Um,
There's just some colored graphs that'd be nice.
Yep.
If that's possible. I will start though.
Where? In Civic Clerk, is it in?
Yeah, in the civic clerk packet.
Like the last.
Either way, I will get started. Again, the first page just talks about some of the history of our bonding for borrowing for TIFs. And I just want to show that in the last 2 years now, in 19 and 18, we did borrow some money for the shipyard. Now we have created a new TID for that is TID 22. So as Dr. Vonk has mentioned in the past, that this is the one TIP that's a little bit different than, that we are actually, the city is putting an investment into this TIP, where in most cases now we're just doing mostly pay-goes and we're not. So this one TID is a little different. So in 19, we borrowed 1.5 million for the shipyard. In 2018, we borrowed 2.1 million. Actually 2 million for the shipyard and then 60,000 for the downtown park. But in 17 and 16, we didn't borrow any money for any TID projects. And then as you can see, in 15, we did 12.7 million. In 2014, there was 6.8 million. So there has been obviously a lot of progress in downtown, which has resulted in not needing to borrow as much. And a really big change in how we do the development agreements for the mostly pay-goes. So that has been very successful when you look at the amount that we are borrowing. The next item was just state debt limitations. The city is allowed to do 5% of our equalized value. Fortunately, our equalized value went up 5.5% over the last year. So that has changed, made our debt limit actually go down. So in 2018, we were sitting at about a 47.5% of what the state says. You can do up to 5%. So we're really at less than 2.5% of what the state says what you can do. And in 2019, based on projections right now, we'll probably go down to 46.4. And then again, that is mostly because equalized went up 5.5. Our debt outstanding did go up, but not as much. So that's why our percentage of outstanding. So we really have more capacity. Not that we want to take up more debt, but we really are not at any risk of going over and getting close to the state limitations.
And that's total city debt, not just TIF debt.
Correct. It is totally a total general obligation. The part it does not include, it would be the KI Convention Center, which is the RDA debt. And the only other thing is parking utilities on the very last payment for the Cherry Street ramp. We're in our last year worth of, then that was also an RDA debt. So that is not, otherwise it's all general obligation. I just want to go through some of the recent projects and kind of where we're at, kind of put them in TIF order. These are some of the recent development agreements that you have seen and approved. And so we had the one on Astor Park, that was a project grant of $150,000 up front, and then after that it's a pay-go, probably not start paying until 2023. Nature's Way is a pay-go, starting in 2021. Northland is a pay-go, starting in 2020. So these are all projects that you've approved, but we have not paid out any money out yet. They're in progress, or we'll start getting some increment on it, and we still have not actually paid any money out on any of these projects. The rail yard we do have up to now have approved project grant of $2.8 million. They have drawn about $2.6 million, and that's really for Kellogg Street and other infrastructure, and at this point we have not borrowed any money for that project. Festival Foods is a pay-go, and we did start paying out some money in 2018, so to date we've paid out 2 years worth of pay-go. JBS, they did get a project grant of $1.5 million up front. To date they have drawn down their full amount, but again we did not borrow for that project. East Town Cub Food, that is where your Marshalls and your PetSmarts are in. We did start from their first pay-go payment was in 2019. Whitney Park Townhouses, pay-go, and we did do a small property transfer, but their first pay-go is probably will get paid out probably in 21. Whitney Townhouses, again, pay-go in 21. Main Street Apartments, pay-go, and there was some property of the transfer in that one, and we will first start paying out in 21. Green Bay Packaging is a pay-go. They did get some property transfer and a street vacation. So we don't have dollar values on it, but there was some additional contingencies that the city put in, but we will have a pay-go starting in 21 on that project, assuming everything moves forward on their timeline. Shipyard, we did about $3.5 million year-to-date. At this point, we've drawn down or spent about $1.9 million year-to-date on that project. Legacy Hotel, we also just approved a pay-go development agreement, and that first payment will probably be out in 2022. Anything you want to add to that? And that's a lot of development agreements and projects that are in the works that we actually haven't spent any money on.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just one of the things, right? I mean, these agreements take time. By the time we do it, the time they do construction, the time it comes online, it's the January 1. After that, we actually really kick in some of these pay-go obligations. So yeah, so I think, with that, for money that we've allocated up front, it sometimes does take really 3-4 years before you start having income coming back in and get right side up. That's why when we talk about when we create a new TID sometimes, right, you see a little dip up first because it does take a few years before you're generating the revenue. But I think I appreciate this body. I think they've done really well in terms of supporting this development, and I think we're at a point where we can be strong in negotiating, and then work on pay-go deals that I think really protect the RDA and the city's interests.
Staff vote over some of these projects.
So I know this summer we gave you a TID annual report, so we won't have the next one with 2019 results until probably spring or summer of next year. Last year we saw the overall fund balances get better in all the TIDs, and I'm expecting and project that again we will get probably at least $500,000 better again this year at the end of 2019. So we're just seeing some steady growth where I think in total the TIDs have kind of bottomed out. All these changes that we have made, we are starting to see that overall all TIDs together are improving in the total fund balance.
Great job of cleaning up those TIDs and combining and closing
the ones that are
excellent
not.
job.
The next page is just kind of a simple graph, but it just kind of shows again how what kind of borrowing has been done. And the TIF on this chart is the green line. And so you can see over time, this one starts in 2010, there were quite a few years where we did a lot of borrowing. Last one you can see in 2015 is when we had 12.7 million, but after that again, it's the same thing we kind of showed you before, is 16 and 17, no borrowing, a little bit in 18 and 19. The big orange line right in the middle is your CAD Convention Center when we borrowed the 24 million for that project. And the blue line is actually your levy-funded borrowing. So as you can see that, there's a steady need each year for levy borrowing. Any questions on that? That just kind of shows you how much we borrowed and kind of give you a trend on for TIFs. Even though it seems like you're approving a lot of requests, we are not doing a lot of borrowing to go with all these. As you feel like you're giving a lot of money out to developers, we are actually not borrowing from them. That they're really sustaining themselves with the increment that comes in. And then the next chart kind of goes back, same thing. This is a history, this is all outstanding for the city of Green Bay. In this case, the TIFs are the red color on this chart. And so as you can see, 12, 13, 14, 15, you can see the red line was getting larger and larger, then we borrowed more, and now for the last 4 years, you can see it drop right back off with very little borrowing. It's coming back down quite a bit.
So the 90 million is what's outstanding?
The 90 million in the blue line is actually, that is just general obligation outstanding.
Right.
I'm sorry, general levy outstanding.
General levy, okay.
Yep, so the blues, so as you can see, in general, the city has been borrowing now on general levy for the last couple of years. They've been borrowing a little bit more than they've been paying off, which is not a great trend. Certainly trying to, Barb, as Alder knows, we want to spin that around and we're trying to level that off. But budgets are tight, it's hard to put equipment and some of those into our budgets. So we're trying to find a solution at this point. But as you can see, the red line, which is your TIFs, are coming back down. Your green line is your CAC Convention Center. Small principal payments, but it actually is slowly coming down. There will be some larger payments in the years to come. Sanitary and storm is actually where you're seeing another increase. I did break that out from compared to last year because our general obligation, I had rolled sanitary and storm together in that line, and there you're seeing some large increases. There's been a lot of borrowing for sanitary and storm. So I wanted to show that line. That's the purple. As you can see, that one is increasing.
But no borrowing for operating. I mean,
No, not for ongoing operational.
Right.
Correct. I guess if you call a police car operational, that's questionable, that could be operational.
Yeah.
We wanted to get away from a police car.
Used to be operating.
It is, it's a 3-year, 3 to 5 year life item. That is not the preference. So we are still borrowing for that type of equipment, but ongoing operating expenses, annual operating, we do not borrow for annual.
I'm guessing that sanitary and storm is going to continue to go up for a while.
Correct, storm in particular. The
Yeah.
needs are huge, are large. And
We see it at the Metropolitan Sewage District when we have large rain events. I mean, our revenue goes sky high. I mean, we're treating stormwater runoff because it all goes into the pipes, breaks and cracks, and you name it. So there's a major effort ongoing in the community about that. So
yeah, so that's actually why I broke that one out separate. Even though general levy is growing, I just want to show that, adding sanitary and storm, it made it look much larger. And because all sanitary and storm and parking is paid 100% by those utilities, it is not paid by any taxes. It is 100% sustainable.
it comes on your water bill.
It comes under water bill, correct. Some other rates. Or parking utility, of course, is through parking rates. But even though it's general obligation, it is not sustained by any taxes. So that is what I have to present. Are there any questions, any other specific questions, anything else you would like me to follow up with?
You personally feel good about where we're at?
I think TIFs are doing fantastic. I think the TIFs really are coming back down. It's a tool to really bring more development into your city. And because of doing pay-goes,
Yes.
they're a fantastic way of getting development and not really having to put money up front. Don't ask about general levy borrowing. That I don't want to answer. That's a different question. Again, as far as state, we're certainly more capacity, but nobody wants to spend more than 9% of your budget on debt.
We haven't done pay-go for all that long, historically speaking, and I do wonder when the economy starts to reach whatever recession is in the cards, you wonder if it has an impact on pay-go versus other incentives for TIFs, but
Very possible.
remains to be seen, I guess.
Where might people might need more money up front in a development agreement,
Right.
but so we might certainly take advantage of it right now when
Oh, it's-
they're willing to accept a project and get money after, not upfront.
Some of it even is that time frame where it takes a project, how many years to develop before you actually start having to make that pay.
Right.
And that's why I think, I'm sorry, that's why I think that was important. I wanted to put it on there, that these things, nature way, we've talked about that for, feels like years almost now, right?
Yeah.
And we won't pay out until 21 would be their first pay go.
Yep. He's waiting on it.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
Won't make a difference to me.
Jim, how do you feel about this?
Good. Good. Yeah, at least the tip portion.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Clear.
Yeah.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Another excellent report, and I'm sure we'll see before that, for next year, we'll do the same thing. I really appreciate it, Dr. Well, we really appreciate it. All right, thank you. Let's see, anything else? Director's report, what's happening?
All right, so it is end of the year for us, and we're cleaning things up, taking a look back, what we got done this year, and then looking ahead for 2020. Dr. Ellenbecker talked about the TIDs. We're just in the process of doing some paperwork for some of the other cleanup actions that we talked about. Our stuff is already in process with DOR for our new TID creations and boundary changes. The other one's about the affordable housing resolutions and the enclosures. We're going to get those in by the end of the year, so we're setting up kind of the timetable for those. I think one of the things we have been talking about, and talking about block grant, and it's time to update our consolidated plan next year. So we're in the process of putting together a scope of work for a housing study. The housing study that I think will both inform that plan and inform our comprehensive plan. I think it's really important, right? I mean, there's some data, some research out there. There's anecdotal stuff, right? I mean, we're short on housing units, but I think we really need to dig in and find out, all right, you know, at what price points and what rents and in what specific locations, right, need, you know, those things, so we can look for developers who are going to bring those products into market. I think, you know, working assistant director and then the housing authority, and we can take a look at, you know, Mason Manor and what the housing authority provides in terms of services, you know, and across the board to, you know, higher end of what else could we have here in this community. So I think we're excited about next year. I think there's going to be a continued focus on housing, and hopefully get you know, some additional projects here before you. So we're working internally in our department right now, kind of on our goals for next year.
Good.
We knocked a lot of stuff off this year and double down and keep moving next year.
Comments. Well, first of all, congratulations on a super year, you and your staff, the whole group. We had a lot of dynamite projects went on this year and made excellent progress, so keep up the great work.
Thank you.
The other day I was talking to Rob Cole, and it sounds like the funding for polio mediation is kind of a limbo.
So I think, without talking too much politics, we're probably in that same camp with the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Right, everyone thinks it's a good idea and everyone supports it, but when it comes time to finding a funding source or where it's going to come from, there's a lot of contention about where that's from. I appreciate his efforts. I think he's going to try and give it another go. But with that, I think we've talked about, all right, you know, what might be a plan B for funding sources to get the due diligence work done out there. We've had, I think, very productive conversations with the county and some interested stakeholders about, you know, how we can move forward with the plan out there. We've got a meeting with WPS later this month, you know, to keep those things moving while the plan's coming down. But yeah, early next year, we're probably going to have to look at some options for funding, for doing some of the due diligence, that geotechnical work, environmental work, to figure out, all right, how do we next move forward.
Anything new on the parking lot that you can talk about?
No, so Associated Bank parking lot or Adams?
Associated Bank.
Yeah, so Associated Bank parking lot, we've been talking with Gorman. We'll probably come back early next year to talk about a planning option for that. They've talked with Rita about you know, how to move forward with some of the LIHTC tax credit programs. There actually may be a way to structure this that works out a little better for them and a little better for us in terms of the product and assessment. But they want to come back and talk about that in January. We just want to get all their pieces in place to move forward with that. So with that, I mean, you may see some cars parking over there. We're releasing it up in the meantime. The other parking lot, Adams Street parking lot, now that we've kind of got that one rolling, we'd like to, I think, come back, and we've talked with both developers about potentially tweaking those projects. Of course, right, APEC saying that they're going to vacate. I don't know, changes the dynamics of things down there, but I think.
Isn't that what we kind of wanted?
Yeah, and so I think, you know, we'll see how that shakes out, but we're going to talk about that lot again next year.
Okay. And Ken's gonna give us an update in January as far as,
Yes.
properties that we want to get back on the tax rolls.
Yes, he and a few others are actually in Los Angeles for a Brownfields conference.
Okay.
You know, again, learn about more tools to get us,
Yes.
you know, leveraging our Brownfields funds. We just had a presentation to EDA last night of our last $300,000 grant that we had for doing Brownfields assessment. In essence, we leveraged $68 million of private investment from that money. So EPA likes what we're doing. We want to learn how we keep doing more. So that's where they're at right now. But yes, they've been going through, Ken and Stephanie Hummel, one of our planners. We got that huge list, right? So you got a parcel, all right, parks, do you need it for anything? Public works, do you need it for anything? If there's no functional city use left, then, all right, maybe that becomes a more marketable property. And those are the things that we're trying to churn through. It's just, we got, I don't know how many hundreds of years of history here
I know.
of figuring out just what each parcel is for or how we got it.
Right.
And, right, checking to make sure we don't have block grant tied up in any of those things, and just being careful through that. So it's a process, but I think we'll be coming up with a list of some good properties that we'd be able to market.
I happened to be on the website the other day, and I seen all the properties are being promoted on the
Yes.
website. That's great.
Yep.
That's excellent way of getting the word out.
Yeah, that's another thing we've talked, marketing and outreach, kind of been almost up a year now with our new website. So again, we don't have to be embarrassed to send people to it anymore, which is really good. Based on some feedback, we want to just think of some ways that we can tweak it, you know, in terms of our use for marketing and making sure information gets out there.
The swing shop.
Oh, yes. And we also, may or may not have heard, Thanksgiving. Our department launched a Green Bay City swag shop. So we did find that there was maybe a little bit of a gap in the market of being able to buy things that said Green Bay and didn't
Not
have
the
a certain
Packers.
logo on them. So we went through and worked internally. I mean, we've got Laura, Public Arts Coordinator, Aaron, our design specialist, and some talented artists here. So just put out a few different designs that talk about city things. So there's some maps and phrases, and set up a shop you can go through and think what, some apparel, some mugs, phone covers.
Is that Redbubble?
Yes,
Redbubble
Redbubble.
.com or,
Yes, you can get to it. I tell people to go to our site.
and then click through.
Right,
and
click
look there?
through,
Okay.
click through from there. But it's a way for us, we wanted to just start putting some things out there.
Mhm.
We worked with Redbubble because it's like a just-in-time service, so we don't have to get stuck with like
Right.
inventory and other things, or closets full of bags and
It's got like the
sweater
old
vests.
city logo.
Yeah.
Gateway to the Great Waterway.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You can get on a t-shirt or some, or mug or.
So we're gonna be pushing that through the holidays,
Right.
just to, you know, be able to give people the opportunity to show their city pride.
And we'll continue to add to that
Mhm.
mix of things.
Is there any move-
Like the old RDA agenda,
Yep.
or logo, right?
Right.
From the
That's a
50th
good one.
anniversary. That's a cool logo.
Any move to change the city's logo, freshen it up?
You'll have to ask our
Yeah, I
our
haven't
mayor
heard- I
about
haven't heard
that.
anything.
Yes.
It's getting stale.
People really love that old one, that Gateway one.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
People love that.
Yeah, I mean, the existing one went in place about 96, 97.
Well, like, I feel like each mayor's had a logo.
That was Paul's.
That was actually Schmidt's,
What, the current one?
current one.
No, it was Paul's.
I think current mayor tweaked it. Got rid of
I think they added
The original one
a
had the
couple on.
snakes. That's how we differentiate, right?
Snakes.
Right,
And
had
added
those
the
little
bridge.
things on the side.
Oh.
Yeah.
Snake logo.
Okay, our next meeting is January 14th. Motion to adjourn.
Would you adjourn?
Fire.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So carried. Carried.
Great.